Welcome to the Unexpected Podcast, where your hosts, Lee and Amy, carry on simple conversations about everything from life experiences, the current culture, God, and everything in between. And because Lee has put Amy through years of surprises, this is her time to surprise him with unexpected topics he won't be privy to until the microphone is on and the camera is rolling. This is the Unexpected Podcast. Well, Lee, here we are in our new podcast studio space.
Well,
what do you think?
kind of like it.
I hope you do.
Y'all did a good job.
Yeah, and you know what? That brings up a great point. I want to say a big thank you to Joseph and Jace and Shay who helped get all this together. Those guys are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did great.
Yeah, and yeah. I know how to paint.
You did good.
Thanks. All right, you ready for another topic?
I guess. Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
I'm ready. I don't
good.
know where I'm at
That's
right
good.
now.
That's right. Those of you who know us may know that Lee's going through a little bit of a health challenge, which is causing some pain. But
okay.
He is a trooper.
It's merely a flesh wound.
It's a pretty painful wound. Not wound, but
it's just pain.
Mere pain.
Mere pain.
Well, first you must stop the bleeding.
Okay, we're going.
All right, we're doing every comedy reference we know about pain and injury, but let's move on. We digress. Wow, I forgot to go on to airplane mode and turn off my ringer, so...
That's okay. This is unexpected.
I know.
It's fine.
Unexpected. So here we are. Unexpected, hanging in there, and so I'm just going to throw out a question. I'll throw it to the audience as well as you.
Okay.
Let's throw it to the audience
Let's
first.
do it.
So let me ask you, have you ever made a decision, done something, said something that seemed like a good idea at the time, only to look back and say, what in the world was I thinking?
Never.
Never. If you're a human being and you're breathing, then you would have to answer yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just we'll get into that.
Some of us probably would say yes, or acknowledge many more bad decisions than others. But some of us have to learn through bad decisions.
I still cringe from some of the decisions or things that I've said. Mm-hmm. Decisions I've made.
Yeah.
Makes me cringe. I get that weird feeling inside of like
oh, yeah.
I shouldn't have done that.
But here's the thing. We've all done it. So, you just have to learn to move on from it, right?
Move on.
But even more importantly, if we can learn to not make rash decisions, we're probably going to fare better in life.
Yes.
All right. Well, let me tell you what prompted me to think about this. We kind of were talking about rash decisions recently, but I was also reading a book. So this is the great thing I love about good stories, good literature, oftentimes a good movie. We'll throw out something in reference to the human condition that makes you stand up and say, that is really a great assessment of how human beings often function. And so I was reading this book. It's this little novel by Edith Wharton, Ethan Frome. Now, I had read some Edith Wharton before, but
Where'd you get that at?
Never read this book. Well, you probably can't see it, but I paid a mere 25 cents for this little paperback book at McKay's, used books, CDs, movies, and more.
That was not a promotion.
It wasn't, but if you guys live in Tennessee or other regions of the South, then you're probably familiar with McKay. What used to be, I think, officially McKay, but everyone always said McKay's, so now they've added an apostrophe S to their name.
That's
awesome. My
awesome.
Understanding of it.
Catering to your...
Yes. To our
demographic.
Southern dialect, to the demographic. Actually, it still says McKay here.
It does, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's like people who go around saying Revelations in reference to the book of the Bible when it's really Revelation. But anyway, it's all right.
In the book of Revelations.
Yes. All right. Anyway, wow, we're really getting off track. Okay, off track, aren't we? It's summer. We got summer brain, too. Summer brain. All right, so I'm reading this book, and what this book is about. It's kind of a tragic story, and I won't get into the entire story, but the basic premise is this is set in a cold New England town in the late 1800s or early 1900s.
Yeah.
In a place where there wasn't a lot of opportunity.
Right.
And so a young Ethan Frome went away to technical college. He wanted to be an engineer, but his father died, and he had to come back and take care of the family farm. Then his mother became ill, and he had to take care of his mother. So in the meantime, he's there by himself. His cousin, now keep in mind, in those days, it was a little more common for cousins to marry cousins. It doesn't say if
It's illegal now.
If it's a close cousin, yes. Anyway, it just says that she was a cousin in the book. It doesn't say a first cousin, second, whatever. Comes along and helps him in his time of need, okay?
How very Kentucky.
It's not, though. It's set in Massachusetts. It does sound very Kentucky. But here is the part that really kind of gripped me, okay? So he takes care of his mother after his father has already died, and then he buries his mother, and it says, after the funeral, when he saw her, meaning the cousin who had come to help in a time of need, when he saw her preparing to go away, he was seized with an unreasoning dread of being left alone on the farm. Okay, so he's got a lot of emotions at play right now.
Yeah.
Okay? And sometimes that causes us to have unreasonable fears, doubts, and make rash decisions. It says, and before he knew what he was doing, he had asked her to stay there with him. He had often thought since that it would not have happened if his mother had died in spring instead of winter.
Dang it, Mama, why'd you die like that? Couldn't you wait until summer?
Exactly. So the point being, that's a great line. That's beautifully written. The point being, okay, he already has all these negatives thrown against him, right?
Yeah.
And then it's winter, okay, in a place where the winters are harsh. So he has all these factors, and it makes him make a very rash decision, which ends up being a very terrible decision, a very tragic decision.
It's bad getting a rash when you're making decisions.
Yes, rashes are very terrible. Yes. So are rash decisions.
Yes.
All right. So here's the point, or what I take away from it. Number one is we've all made bad decisions, and sometimes it was because we were so emotionally tied, maybe to a person or to a situation, or maybe we were at a low. You know, something tragic had happened in our lives. A relationship had been broken. You know, so it's the classic. You break off this relationship, you're lonely, so you run into this relationship, which is a poor decision.
Right.
So, the Bible has a lot to say about this too, but let me ask you if you have any thoughts at this point.
Of course I've got thoughts. I've got many thoughts. Were they rational? Who knows? Okay. I don't know if they're rational thoughts or not.
Right.
So what comes to mind for me is, I had a certain conversation at one point with one of your family members, and I said something that was kind of a misinterpretation of, we're talking about regrets and different things like that, an interpretation of a word. I used the wrong word for something, and it had to do with, something very embarrassing, and I used it completely wrong.
Right.
And to this day, I still go, ooh, I said that.
It had a certain connotation.
It did.
That you didn't intend
no
for
idea.
it to.
I was trying to sound smart, and it just didn't come out right. It just came out all, bumfuddled or
so
whatever.
There's a lesson. Don't try to sound smart.
Oh, no. That's it.
Just say what you know.
Say what you know, mean what you say what you mean, all of that stuff. But I think it's just, one of those things of we have a tendency to emotionally make decisions that can be detrimental to life and other people and relationship at times that people take to heart. I mean, that's the thing. Sometimes there's no grace for messing up from people.
True.
And so we try to make people perfect in our eyes and there's nobody perfect,
right,
except Jesus, and that's the one. There are many factors to this. It's a deep one because we can rationalize anything. I could rationalize that this cup is the best cup in the whole world, and you've never seen a cup like this. I can do the whole politician thing of this is the best cup ever made. It's got the greatest porcelain. It's the best looking ink, and it's got the best logo on it. As you can see right here, it's the best logo because it's the unexpected logo. I can rationalize that it's the best. Mm-hmm. Is it fact? No, not at all. Is there a better cup, one better than the other? No, there's not. Is one person better than another person? I can argue yes. There are some people that are better than other people because of life choices, and because they rationalized that it was okay for them to go and knock over a bank. It was okay for them to go and rob a bank. It was okay for them to rob a store. It was okay for them to do that. Well, I'm in need. Okay, well, there are things out there that you can do, like get a job if you can. If you can't hold a job down, there's a question of whether you're capable of what kind of social skills. What are your abilities to be able to hold a job? Everybody can grow. Everybody can change. Mm-hmm. Everybody can do something. And there's a controversial thought right there that all people change. I try to err on the side of yes, people can change. Does that come back to bite me? Yes. Have I got regrets of that? Yes, absolutely, 100%. Okay. But the rationality connected with emotional, gets this skewed. Instead of rationalizing with facts, you rationalize with emotion. Okay. And it changes the dynamic of the situation.
Right. Because emotions are important,
very much so,
we need them. We're made in the image of God, and God has emotions, but he's not ruled by his emotions. And so we can take our emotions, we acknowledge them. They're often just as the physical pain can be a sign of an alert, like, oh, we need to deal with this. Emotions can be an alert and a positive thing, but when they rule us, and then when they rule our decision making and skew our judgment, then it's a problem.
Well, I mean, it's that emotional thing that I usually have is like, please let me throat punch them. We talk about that a lot. And I really don't want to throat punch people, but sometimes that urge inside of me is just like...
So what emotions are at play there?
Oh, those emotions are disgust, irritation, lack of control on my part of my emotions. Okay. That would be a lack of fear of God, I believe.
Right.
And repercussions of my actions.
Right.
A lack of fear of the repercussions of my actions.
Right.
So why do we lash out when we are emotional? Should we emotionally lash out? Should we rationalize when we're emotional?
Right.
Explain
Should we step back?
Right. Okay. What is rationalization? What is rationalization? It's the separation, I believe. I think I'm correct in this. It's weighing out the options of what to do.
Sure, using your logic and your ability to reason,
right,
and to weigh the pros and cons, and then if you can step back rather than jump into especially big life-changing decisions, if you can step back and weigh those things, but then also incorporate God's wisdom, because it goes back to what you said. When we have a lack of the fear of God, then we're very likely to use poor judgment, because the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom.
Yeah, and that's a big part.
Yeah,
you and I, we never argue in our marriage. Never. I get irrational sometimes because I don't understand the facts in which you're speaking.
Right.
You get irrational sometimes because
sure.
you don't understand the facts in which I'm speaking.
Sure. And it's a two-way street, because sometimes when you're already stepped into irrational thinking, you can't weigh the facts very well.
No.
But likewise, if you don't have the right facts, it can also throw you into irrational thinking.
So what should we do? See, we talk about this. What should we do to get to come to a more conclusive answer? Well, research. That is, find out the facts. Is that person being vindictive actually, or are they mistaken and they are having a hard day and they just irrationally spoke?
I'm so guilty. I mean, just talking about our relationship, there are many times where, he'll say something and I take it the wrong way. And if I looked at it in the context of how he normally behaves, I would know that his intentions for me are only good.
Yeah.
And so deep down, I know that your intentions for me are good.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, if I'm in a state of irrational thinking, I think, oh, that was terrible what he said, and he's out to get me, or he's coming against me in some way. So I think, going back to your question, if we focus intentionally on gratitude, and this pertains to relationships where you're close to someone. If I wake up every day thinking, I'm thankful for you, and I think back, and I take the time to think back on all the positives that you bring into my life, then those negatives aren't going to be as big of a deal.
Right. And if you are married and you think there are no negatives that are coming into your marriage, you are living in a fantasy world, because there are going to be negatives. There are going to be issues that come up that you disagree on. There are going to be things that come up in life that you don't exactly know. And if you're fully submissive to each other, then sometimes you give up your ground for the other person. If you're a bullheaded person and you got two bullheaded people in one room and you're trying to compromise, wow, that's hard.
Yeah.
And emotions can rise, and but ultimately, it comes down to me and you, or the husband and wife who are in this battle to come to a compromise, and neither one wants to compromise. Those are the hard ones. People don't talk about that kind of stuff because we're afraid to. We're afraid to say what is real.
Right.
We are trying. We're like doctors practicing medicine. We're practicing marriage.
Sure. Every day. Every day. And going back to the word you said, use the term battle. Of course, I don't see it as we're always in battle, obviously. We don't want to see that because we're in partnership. But it does bring up the commonly used phrase, choose your battles. And so there's a time to back down. But then, here's the thing. You talked about people who are stubborn, bullheaded, tend to stand their ground. There are people on the other end of the spectrum who need to stand up at times. And that's hard to do for someone who doesn't do that normally.
Right.
And so, but there's a time to stand your ground too.
Absolutely.
And not just back off when you deep down know like something is worth fighting for.
Right. And as if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. You've heard that many a times. I know some people are like, well, that's old thinking. Well, you know what? Sometimes the old ways are the best ways because they've been proven for centuries.
Well, they are. And, as you were saying that, and I was looking here at some notes that I'd written down, actually some scriptures that I'd written down. Yeah. We're not here to really preach to people. We're here just to have conversations, but I feel this very strongly in my spirit that it's so important that you really are, if you're a follower of Christ, that you really are ingesting the Word of God on a regular basis.
Absolutely.
And there's actually a study, and maybe we'll talk about this more in depth at some point when I have more of it in front of me, but there was a study that was conducted with different people reading different religious texts. Okay, and so maybe some people were over here reading, some Buddhist material. Some people were reading the Quran. Some people were reading the Bible daily. And they found, they did like brain scans. Yeah. And they actually found
neurological activity.
Right. Thank you. And they found a significant change in just the levels of peace and well-being in people who read Scripture at least 4 times a week.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's like a definite 3 days a week does some good, but 4 days a week, it was like a significant bump
right
in the well-being of individuals. So we'll delve into that another time. But, talking about, getting back to our topic about making decisions, not making rash decisions, but making good, sound decisions. Proverbs 16:25 says, there's a way which seems right to a man, but its end is the way to death. And so I think when we're talking about those big life-changing decisions, I think it's just so important to take the time to say, okay, is this something that just seems right to me right now? And I know, I look back now and I've seen I can remember we almost made a huge life decision about moving. Now, when we moved to where we live now, that was a good decision.
Yes,
I think
it
that was a God-led decision.
Very
we were
blessed.
both on the same page. But another situation came up where we almost made another move.
Yeah.
And it would have been bad.
Yeah.
It would have been disastrous. It would have been the wrong thing. But there was a little season or a little time frame where we were looking into it and it seemed like a good idea.
Yeah.
But thank the Lord
Wow.
for us stopping and saying, wait a minute, just because these people are saying this would be good and we're seeing one aspect of it and it seems like it would be good, it would not have been good.
Advice from people is good.
Mm-hmm.
Advice from people who have no vested interest in your life can be detrimental.
It can be.
And because I think there's some people, I don't want to give advice to people unless I'm willing to back it up.
Right.
And if I'm giving advice to someone and I'm mentoring them, or if I am discipling them, or I'm helping them, then I better put my money where my mouth is. I better put my life or my goods, my things where my mouth is. Because if I'm talking and I'm saying, hey, you should do this, I better be willing to back it up with support. Unless you're willing to back it up with support and help and ongoing discipleship and ongoing help.
That's a great point.
Don't give advice.
Correct.
Period.
I
Because
agree.
we've had many people give us advice. We've had a bunch of people give us irrational advice based on emotion, or they were trying to make us feel better. Thank you for trying to make us feel better.
Now,
but unless you're willing to back it up and come about, now there have been many people who's like, they bring us groceries, they bring us different things when we were having a hard time. They backed it up with goods. They backed it up with ongoing help of some sort.
And I think there's a difference between someone who comes along and says, I think you should do this, versus, here's an option maybe you want to consider, maybe you want to weigh, maybe you want to pray about. That's different. Sometimes people do have good things to offer. They're not pushing it on you.
Right.
That I can get on board with.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Sure.
There are certain times it's just like in passing advice. I get it.
Sure.
But if it's life-changing advice, you better be ready to get in the trenches with them. Because if you see a calling on their life and there's something that they need to be invested in, or investing in that person, invest in that person. What does that mean?
Right.
Invest in that person. Time,
resources, whatever you can give.
Exactly.
Right. Very good. Very good.
Anyway.
Let me end with the final verse here. Enthusiasm, this is Proverbs 19:2. Enthusiasm without knowledge is no good. Haste makes mistakes. And, we've talked a lot about hasty decisions as it pertains to relationships and people, but sometimes it can just be, it can be silly things too, day-to-day things. How many
Should
times
I buy this?
Should I buy this?
Yep.
I did it the other day. I knew, because I had been out pulling weeds and I had already been bitten by fire ants.
Yeah.
And I decided, I'm going to go pull some weeds. And deep down, I was like, I may be contending with fire ants if I get back out there again.
Yeah.
And I did it anyway.
Yeah.
And yes,
Which makes me feel bad because I can't get out there right now. I can't get out in the yard and help.
I know.
I'm in... Yeah, we're
in that world
right now.
So we're trying to. So if you drive up to our curb, if you happen to be people who live in our area, and you see some weeds,
feel free.
Feel
free to do yard work for us.
There you go.
If you want to invest.
That's why we came online today to put out our petition. No. We're joking. We're totally joking. Well, any final thoughts?
Well, if you are our friends and you know who we are, which I hope that we have more friends than enemies, but who knows?
And no frenemies. We don't
no
do
frenemies. We don't like that either. But
we
if
don't
you
play
are,
that game.
Feel free. If you know, if you have our number, feel free. Call us.
Yeah.
Feel free to come over every once in a while.
Yeah. Stop by. We'll make some coffee for you.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I do miss those days where. It was a little more common for people to just stop by for a little visit, a little chat on the porch,
I miss those days.
I think we need to get back to those days.
I miss those days of seeing people on their front porch, stopping by, saying hi for about 5-10 minutes, and then moving on.
Yeah.
Or just driving by and checking on somebody.
Yeah.
That vested interest.
Yeah.
It's very...
Yeah.
Get back to some community.
Right. So think about someone that you could reach out to today.
Yeah.
I think, that's how you change the world, one person at a time.
That's right.
And so if we can just all reach out, do our part.
Make some rational decisions.
Yeah, do that.
Based on facts.
Imagine that.
Wow.
All right. Well, we will see you all on the next episode.
See ya.
Don't forget to like this video and please subscribe to our channel. Drop your comments below. We'd love to hear from you. If you prefer audio podcasts, please follow us on your favorite streaming platform.